Three, four, 1, 2, 3, 4. Do 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 ba ba ba. All right, greetings from the Survival Pod. This is Freedom Phil out here in the wasteland, and what's the topic today? If a bartender can be held accountable for serving you too much alcohol and the damage that you might cause, why shouldn't judges be held accountable when they release people that have committed multiple crimes? Oh, how many redemption arcs do you have to have before eventually the person who keeps on giving you forgiveness is responsible for the death, murder, and rapes? Yeah, this is Freedom Phil. Like, subscribe. Let's get into it. Hey, turn up the video speed. I was watching the news, and they showed another example of some judge in a far left city basically releasing somebody. In that case, it was an illegal. Just like, how often does this have to happen? And not to mention, forget the illegal fact for a second. You got crazy people on the streets that effectively go out and predicate. And they know that they'll get busted and what they'll do a little bit of time in jail, maybe a few months. But you get to somebody who's had like over 10 arrests. And that, okay, you think that's a lot. But you see cases where someone has anywhere from 30 to 60 or more, and then you start to ask yourself, why? Why do they keep on releasing people? And honestly, I think I have some ways to solve a lot of this crime and punishment things that, God knows we'll never do, but, I think would be more effective. But why do they keep on releasing them? And I think the real answer is that because, frankly, incarcerating retards is expensive. Oh, you can't call people. No, I'm going to say, there's a difference between being mentally disabled and someone who's a fucking retard. Someone who's mentally disabled is mentally disabled. So let's just make that categorical difference before anybody gets offended. And by the way, if you're offended, go stare at a shiny doorknob or something more up your alley, your IQ alley. No, we got a lot of violent, angry retards running around the country. And, putting them in jail is 40, 50, coming soon, $60K a year. To have them do what? Be housed for a certain amount of time. And you got to wonder, I've heard this kind of theory that, due to, you see this, no offense to the black community, but let's be honest, you see the same handful of guys, you'll see this in white communities as well at times, same handful of guys siring a bunch of kids that they're not taking care of. And this kind of dysgenic spiral sending people downward. Therefore, it's kind of like the example that you see over in the Middle East when it comes to terrorist groups. The intelligent people have to kind of live in fear of the fucking crazies and the retardedly stupid out there, criminally retarded. And so if you have enough money to make escape velocity from wherever you live, once upon a time, they called that white flight. Well, I call it pulling a Jeffersons because everybody can do it. The people that can do it manage to get out, but the people that can't are stuck in a situation with a bunch of crazy fucking criminals, who apparently just can't function or just don't give a shit. It's either are too retarded to function or just don't care. And they get away with what they do. And even our system, I don't care which version of welfare, white, black, what the fuck ever. And someday I need to do a deep dive explaining why the difference between rural poverty and urban poverty and why some of the criminality, why things get so bad in the cities. It's a totally different game. But you get these situations where these people are literally just a problem in their community, but there's nothing really done about it. They get caught and a judge releases them. Or they get like some slap on the wrist sentence. And it keeps on happening, keeps on happening, keeps on happening. And honestly, this is kind of part of the reason that some of the protests where they're tearing down statues, burning cars, assaulting people. Like it's basically, I'm going to be real. I think Antifa's a white problem. Now, yeah, there's obviously other groups of people in it, but let's be real. I think it's really a communist Soviet subversion problem, if we're being honest about it. But I mean, it's the bored people from the suburbs. So you see this situation where people are doing fuck shit again and again and again. And sometimes it's homeless people in these cities, junkies, and they keep on doing the same shit. And it gets so bad that in order to, brush under the rug all the problems of the little people, because God forbid you actually just elect somebody who could solve it, you start making crimes not a crime. So you can fudge the numbers. Well, you can't fudge reality. You can't. If this store is losing too much to theft, eventually they're just like, they just run the cost benefit. See, everybody in business becomes mathematical mindset real quick. If you're not using mathematical mindset in business, you will fail. You will fail because somebody else that does will use it. And they're like, well, we're losing this much to theft. And because these crimes are generally done by youths and by people that are only stealing purposely under, 900 to 1,000. I mean, fuck, you could get a full, if you could manage to escape with a full screen, like full size flat screen or under, go to a Walmart. You can get a flat screen for like 500, 600. Shit, you can get a nice little, I don't say a big, big one, but for $200, you get a pretty decent sized TV. So you think about how many different things you can steal for under $900. You put that in perspective for a second, and then you think all the little things that are expensive, and it just people just grabbing shit, and then basically they keep on getting away with it, and every time they get caught, catch and release. Now, eventually, sooner or later, the good people who can walk away from a society will move somewhere else. And so you just got to ask yourself, and by the way, you, legitimate, hardworking person, you are the one truly being punished every day. You got to live around these people. You got to live in a society where your time is wasted. You got to wait for someone to show up to open a case, so you can get some cologne out or whatever, some underwear behind the case. You know why the underwear's behind the case? Because you live in a place where they're like, well, if I steal this underwear, I could sell it online for this much. And then what ends up happening? Now you, normal person, has to waste their fucking time waiting for somebody. You are being punished. Think about that. All the minutes, all the time you had to waste, and the nonsense you had to deal with, the extra distance you now have to go to a grocery store, to go to a Walmart, to go to something, because your local judge, your DA and your judge didn't put these people in jail, didn't have effective punishment. So I'll bring it back. Took a while, but I brought it back to the judges, didn't I? I look at the situation, and that judge is the reason that next crime happened. Let me give you a really brutal example. You remember back during the Me Too movement? There was a couple of people I was talking to I've known my whole life, and they were like, oh, it happened to me. And I'm like, really? And then the other one says, well, who was it? And she said who it was. And she's like, oh, that guy did something to me too. And then me being a little skeptical of that whole movement at the time, because it just seemed like it now became unpopular to say somebody did something at some point, I said, okay, which one of you did it happen to first? And they looked horrified at me. How could you even ask that? I'm like, well, because which one of you didn't go to the police back in the day is the reason the next one happened. Like, because that judge didn't convict that criminal and give some severe ass punishment early in the game. And I'm not saying there should be a little leniency, but I mean, at a certain point, like maybe two times a lenient, 3 strikes, you're out. Because that judge didn't do something after a couple times trying to get this person's life right. That's why you're down. They're up 10 arrests, 20, 30, 40, 50. Some of these cases, 50 arrests. These people are a blight on your society, and yet the judges do not convict them gave them any real conviction. And they give a slap on the wrist. They literally do catch and release in some of these states if it's under a certain amount. You have to let that sink in. Imagine for a second if there was some public punishment. I told you I'd get to something draconian. There's some public punishment, something that people would fear. I'm a big fan of Singapore-style caning. I don't want to waste the public's money putting someone in jail for you did some stupid shit, and it's obvious you did stupid shit. Oh, it's time for Mr. Mabushi with the bamboo pole. And everybody gets to watch it. Fuck, we'll do paid per view for that. You're gonna be paying your debt to society on the regular. You screw up a little too much, you ought to be coming back. We'll make you walk back. You know? What do you mean walk back? Yeah, it might not just be one time getting the bamboo pole. It might be a few times. We'll let you heal. And we'll make sure, just to be a little salty about it, a little salt water too. A squirt of lemon. Need some disinfectant too. That'll make sure it burns. And everybody gets to see it. And that's just the early phases. At some certain point, what about the case if you are such a fuck up, we send you to Criminal Retard Island. Make a TV show out of it. We bag and hunt motherfuckers. I don't know if we kill them, but I'm just saying, have like the tweaker hunter or some shit. But if it gets to the point where you are committing you've committed heinous crimes, and we try to give you a way out, well, fuck it, man. Bring back the goddamn guillotine. And then, here's what all the young punks get to see. Your head on some little rotation device, spinning around like tongue hanging out and shit. Oh, you talking about that? Yeah, I am. And what do you want to bet? Just like hard drugs. Let me tell you something. Most of the people doing fentanyl, they don't know they're doing fentanyl. Their shit gets laced. Laced to some shit. They don't know they're doing it. But most people know not to mess with that fentanyl shit. There's some retards out there messing with fentanyl. But most of them know not to mess with that shit. There'll be some weird fucking... I remember back in the day, there was people fucking taking window screens and then spraying fucking wasp spray on it. And they'd hit it with a fucking car battery, it'd be the metal, old style metal screens. And they make a quick little electrical jolt through it. And then there are people actually smoking the death. There were people back in the day huffing gas. There were people back in the day making jankin. That's where you fucking ferment shit, and they'd huff the shit fumes. And everybody knew those people were fucking getting this retarded goofies. People don't do shit they know it's going to fuck them up. And it's the same thing with the criminals. All it would take is a handful of them really getting the treatment. And then most people be like, I think I'll get my shit together. They're now taking it seriously. But the reason you have to live in this fucked up society in some of these blue leftist cities is because the judge keep on doing catch and release like it's fishing with criminals. The DA is literally, and this is where we get into the politics of it. You got blue leftist DAs. You got blue leftist judges. Remember that chick? They had some illegal got caught for some fuck shit, and she let him out the back door. No, she needs to go to Mr. Mabushi with the bamboo pole, Singapore style caning. That bitch needs to be screaming, and that needs to be pay per view. And a lot of people are like, oh, you can't say that. Or they'll be like, that's a woman. I don't give a shit. If women want equal rights, they need to be up for their equal punishment. None of this crap where they get 60% less sentence than a man. You see women do some fuck shit and they get away with it. And that's why they do it. Because they know they ain't going to be held accountable. Yeah, I'm telling you, man. You start changing it up. You start changing that shit up. And women start looking around and they're like, oh shit, if I do this dumb shit, I'm going to be punished. They'll stop doing it. Women are real smart about that. Men, on the other hand, yeah, you got to get a few of them. But you got to get these judges. Because like I said in the very beginning, if a bartender overserves you, can be liable for what you do after you go out onto the streets drunk, then why the hell isn't the judge that releases the criminals liable? Really, Think about that. Why aren't the judges who release the criminals over and over again liable for what they've done? Why aren't the DAs who refuse to prosecute fuck shit responsible for what happens next? Now, I understand maybe give someone a slap on the wrist. Not really a slap on the wrist, but maybe you're going to be doing some, you're going to be doing something publicly. I think even, let's say some of these fuck shit protesters. Let's bring back rotten fruit. Let's make rotten fruit great again. And people get to go and anonymously throw fucking shit at you or whatever. Let everybody like you get someone who graffitis up some statue or something, and then we have that person sitting there with a sign that says, "I'm the asshole who did this." So everybody knows who you are. Like, yeah, but that'll socially shame them. Good. Make it on your record. Make it on a record that says, hey, this guy's a fucking jackass. This guy's a jackass. And he's the reason, and he had to scrub off all that graffiti. Well, let everybody know who did it. Don't make crime some anonymous thing. That's part of the problem. You should know who are fuck people in your community. And by the way, here's another one. That'll solve a lot of low end crime. If your kids do some fuck shit, your welfare benefits get reduced. If your rich kids get, do some fuck shit, your parents are going to have to pay more in taxes. Watch how quickly when put your money where your mouth is, goes in a reversed way, like you're going to pay for what your motherfuckers did. You watch how quickly a lot of these parents start busting out the belt again. You ain't going to get to Mr. Babushi. You ain't going to get to that Singapore-style Kenny, because mama and papa are going to fucking slap you silly if you act like a fool. And people say, are you saying violence is the end? Well, you know what? I got to be real about this. I ain't saying violence is a great thing. But it seems like since we went to this generation of no spankings, no nothing, what the fuck do we see in the streets today? What is the legacy of no punishment? What is the legacy of that? Huh? Take a goddamn good look around. Go to these big blue cities. What's the legacy of no punishment? Now, maybe we should start with the judges and the DAs. And if some fuck shit happens with a bunch of people you've released, you don't only get fired from your job, you get thrown in jail. Because you were supposed to be the gate that kept society protected. So all the normal people working their jobs, paying their bills, paying those taxes, keeping society going, so normal people could live a good, comfortable, normal life. And if you as a judge or a DA can't do that, I mean, if a judge can't be held to at least the standard that a bartender's held to, we need to reevaluate what the fuck is going on. It's Freedom Phil. Like, subscribe. Take it easy.